Welcome back once again to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am again, as always, Chat Show. How was your week? Was it fantastic? Was it fine? Was it terrific?
Why don't you write to us and tell us all about it, you son of a bitch? Write to us at contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com. One of you wrote in with the Larry King game and won themselves a t-shirt that I'll be sending to
Galt, California. Sammy, you must know where Galt, California is.
I did time there.
Did you?
Yeah.
Did you do time for anything specific?
Jaywalking.
Jaywalking.
Yeah.
That is specific.
They take the law very seriously.
That must have been in Beverly
California.
Hills. Jaywalking in Beverly Hills, very serious, unless you're Eddie Murphy in a movie. Thanks once again to Sean Casey and the fine folks here at the West Side Comedy Theater for allowing us this beautiful venue. If you're ever on the West Side, if you're ever in the Los Angeles area and looking for some laughs, this is an amazing improv theater, on occasion stand-up comedy. In fact, our very own pal, Dana Carvey, apparently is doing a show here tonight.
Yes.
It's been sold out forever because there's only 13 seats. No, we turned Dana on. It was all Jamie's fault originally. And now apparently
this theater owes me a lot.
Yeah, this theater owes
Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, it really does. Well, listen, however they want to thank you, I'm thanking them for now. Congratulations to former guest Mr. Chris Pratt for having the #1 global opening in history with the Jurassic World.
Oh, they did it? They beat Avengers?
The world global.
Oh, the global
opening was $511 million in one weekend. How does that? What do you instantly lose the sign at the bottom of the property that says "Drifters Welcome"? Where is the mark of? Now I don't have to blank. Ever talk to my family again? How do you celebrate? So write to us at contact@kevinpollakschatshow.com and let us know how you do the show. Are you watching us on the YouTube? Why haven't you subscribed or written a review? Sammy, how was your week?
You know, Kev,
yes.
I'm glad you asked. It was great, thank you.
Was it? Anything in particular you'd like to share?
No, I have no follow-ups.
No follow-up?
No.
Just an overall review of happiness?
It was a great week. I saw the Jurassic World.
We did as well.
Yeah.
I just wanted to not be annoyed, and I wasn't.
Yeah.
Were you?
Were
you annoyance-free?
No, I enjoyed the crap out of it.
Enjoyed the crap out of it.
Yeah, because you know what? It's a popcorn movie.
Mm-hmm.
If you go in expecting The Age of Innocence, you're going to be disappointed.
A dear friend of ours complained about the logic holes. I said, "How dare you?"
My comeback was, well, it's called Jurassic Park, and all the dinosaurs are from the Cretaceous period, so therein lies your
first
problem.
problem.
There's your first problem.
Yeah.
I really like dinosaurs.
You really like dinosaurs.
I do.
It was delightful.
Yeah.
And again, it's a popcorn movie, so go enjoy it for what it is.
Absolutely.
And I did. I'm not afraid to say it, and I don't care who's asking.
Yeah.
That may be the old and the new news.
Wow.
Look at that. A very brief summary of the week.
Now wait.
Uh-oh.
Last week,
This is where things get derailed.
we teased a little bit on this.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm going to insist. I know you don't want to talk about it. I'm going to insist that you talk about why you cannot be here next week.
It's just such a strange
I know.
thing. So apparently there's a comedy festival in honor of Johnny Carson, one of my heroes, and I had the ridiculous good fortune of being a guest on his show. Written much about in my own book, How I Slept My Way to the Middle. Still available on all your, on the internet really, that's about it. It was a ridiculous thrill that will never be matched. So anything to do with Johnny Carson is an honor indeed. So at this comedy festival, it's like the 10th annual or something. It's been around a while. Near his hometown in the Nebraska. The show is in Norfolk, Nebraska.
Watch that pronunciation.
That's how they say it, Norfolk.
All right.
Yeah. How would you say it?
Norfolk.
Norfolk?
Yeah,
Pronounce that L.
That's how it's spelled. Norfolk. Anybody up there? How would you guys pronounce it? Norfolk. I like Norfolk. Norfolk, Nebraska.
All right, good luck with that.
Yeah, by the way, where do I get to fly into, Natalie? Omaha, Nebraska.
I was just there 2 weeks ago.
And how long do you think the drive from Omaha to Norfolk is, Sam?
You can Norfolk yourself and check out Google Maps.
2 hours. 2 hour drive. 2 hour drive after flying there from Los Angeles. Is that a nonstop flight?
Not the way I flew.
No, not the way anyone flies.
Nope.
No. They canceled all the nonstops between LA and Omaha. What a wonderful travel day. So after that travel day,
Yeah.
I will be receiving the annual Johnny Carson Lifetime Achievement Award
Hey.
at the Comedy Festival.
Abs-
You know, Don Rickles, Bob Newhart, there's been icons, Mount Rushmore type talent. And again, to receive this call is like,
This is the first I'm hearing of this.
It was on the cover of the trade.
that's my favorite part of the story. This is the
It's true.
hilarious
Well, I
runner.
knew you were going out of town. And
You
I
didn't
knew
know
it was
why?
yeah, but I didn't know it was because you're giving it lifetime achievement.
Well, now you see why I haven't told you. Because your instinct is to laugh.
Oh, here's the good
I'm
news.
not, well, it's for comedy. Did you not want me to laugh?
Nice.
Here's the good news.
Yes, Sammy, what is the good
You're
news?
getting your Lifetime Achievement Award now. You could take the next 30 years off.
Oh,
Club 55.
poor Jamie, that I'm going to be around for 30 more years. That is just the worst news possible. Well, I'm going to be sitting in my own sauce in about 20 years, so I don't know that 30 years is a good idea. I'm soaking in it now. So yeah, so I'm being honored at this thing, and it's wildly embarrassing and ridiculous. But they've asked for all family photos. I mean, they're making a giant video package
Oh boy.
in the presentation and the honoring, and it's just
Oh,
going to
boy.
be, it's just going to be horrifying. And my whatever I'm supposed to say will just be an endless apology of sorry the people you invited couldn't come, and that I'm in their stead now. So yeah, so that's and then Sam, you're going to be at the event that I love. I was going to say wish I were at instead, but I don't want to insult the people of Norfolk,
It's a
Nebraska.
Sophie's choice for you, I know.
Helping out the Children's Mercy
Children's-
Hospital of Kansas City.
That's correct. Children's Mercy of Kansas City, the Big Slick KC charity weekend.
You think there's still tickets available for the big show at the Midland Theater?
Absolutely, there are tickets still available. Go to bigslick.org.
Next Saturday.
Find out.
Yeah.
It's a week from yesterday.
It's a huge, fantastic event.
Big deal.
All the Kansas City guys, the Paul Rudd, the Rob Riggle, the Sudeikis,
Yep.
the Dave Keckner,
Yep.
the Stone Street.
Yep.
Who am I leaving out?
Paul Rudd.
Sure, I mentioned him.
Okay. Then I think
Anyways.
you got them all. Riggle.
Helped them. We raised over $1 million last year in one weekend.
Over $1
which
million
was-
in
which
3
was
days.
Insane.
And I know they want to beat that this year.
Yeah. I'm sorry John Hodgman won't be there for you to give a poker lesson to.
Me too.
So write to us again, contact KevinPaulShatro.com. I can annoy our guest no longer by keeping him waiting, other than this opportunity to read this Larry King game. I did threaten that someone would want a t-shirt. His name is Charlie Cook, and he's from Galt, California, where I wish I was having to get to instead of Norfolk, Nebraska. My name is Charlie Cook from Galt, California. I enjoy your KPCS very much and watch it on the YouTube on my cell phone.
That's what the kids
So
do.
all the nuances are lost on
kids do.
Charlie Cook. Please say hello to Mr. Cryer. Whoop, just spoiled the guest name. Sam with 2 M's and Jamie spelled correctly. He is a fan. This is my entry for the Larry King game. Folks, this is how you win yourself a t-shirt. You write yourself a Larry King game that I deem worthy of reading on the show, and then I'm going to send this gentleman a free t-shirt. Kevin
Natalie's
Pollak.
going to send them a T-shirt.
Natalie, the executive assistant to the Pollak Trust. I need to explain this bandage on the side of my head. Today, while eating lunch, my left ear fell off and landed on my plate. Tasted like chicken. Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Caller, you're on the air. You're going to have to speak up, caller. That's why he got the t-shirt. That's why he got the t-shirt. He made a losing your hearing joke, and I enjoyed it. Woonsocket, Rhode Island. Heard of that?
Spent the longest summer of my life there.
One week.
I did time.
Spent the longest summer 1 week in Rhode Island.
Yeah.
All right. This is a book that apparently was a New York Times bestseller and is apparently out over a month ago. Wow. We were able to snag at the end of his publicity tour the great Jon Cryer. Please welcome to this table. Thank you.
Thank you.
Get yourself a copy of this, you sons of bitches.
It's Woonsocket, by the way.
It is
It's
Woonsocket, Rhode Island?
and it is Norfolk.
Yeah.
That's just the rule.
Have you weighed the book?
I have weighed the book at home in my spare time.
And it comes in at
Less than a pound. It's less than a pound. People, don't freak out.
But for
Why?
a pound, it reads like
It reads like 2 or 3 pounds.
it reads like a gallon. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How
Thank
long
you
did
very
it
much.
take to write? This is no easy task. I mentioned my book like an idiot. But they said, do you want to write this book? And I said, I don't have the time. They said, we have a ghostwriter. I said, I can't have a ghostwriter write my story. They said, no, he's a journalist. And I recommend this highly. I wish I'd got to you before you sat down.
It's too late now.
So they say he's a journalist. He'll conduct these Skype interviews with you. He'll ask you questions. He will record your Skype interview. He will transcribe it and send it to you, and you'll edit your stories for the book.
In many respects, I did that.
Good.
Yes.
Good.
So I'm way ahead of you.
Great
Kevin
process.
Pollak. Yes, it was a great process. It was a guy named Robert Abley who works for LA Times, and he's fabulous.
Yeah.
He's just fabulous. Basically taught me how to do this.
Yeah.
Amazing guy.
Yeah.
And it was a blast, but also kind of scary. It took about 9 months because you're dealing with memory, and it is fallible and wrong. And I would go back and do research and realize I was wrong about a bunch of things, that I had sort of rebuilt some memories in my head.
But you build that gag into the book, which I love. Even in the very first story, when you're talking about the props guy, you're calling him by one name,
and then
in parentheses saying, "I think that's it." Yep, pretty sure that's it. And then finally, no, I think it's Steve. Might have been Steve. And then you come back to, yes, it was that. Thank you, IMDb. So you clearly did the research.
I did the
and
research.
then chose not to correct yourself in the book, which I thought was fantastic because
thank you.
it's just a window into this is going to be silly and fun, and mostly factual.
Yes.
According to my memory.
It is, as far as I know, all factual.
Yeah.
I was very, yeah.
Well, you brought your memory into it. So
I
you're
did,
saying,
so, yeah.
you're saying you wrote from memory and then edited through historical facts.
Yes.
You researched
The team of researchers
Yeah.
set upon it. It was fascinating because when I had to submit it to the legal department
Sure.
at Penguin,
Sure.
I don't know if you went, I imagine you had to go through that
I
process.
refuse to talk to the Penguins, but I did. There was a legal department involved.
I don't speak to penguins.
Yeah.
It's just, but they.
They're overdressed.
I had in the book. I talk about my experiences at summer camp, and I went to a theater camp.
Did you?
Where there was a remarkable number of young guys who were fairly out about being gay. This was back in the late 70s, early 80s.
Sure.
And that was remarkable to me at the time. But mentioning it in the book, I got a call from the legal department saying, "Hey, you may want to check and make sure these people are still gay." And I was like, okay.
As only a lawyer can ask.
Exactly. It's like, how do I? So it entailed a lot of phone calls to these people saying, "Hey, man, how's it going?" So say, "Hey, are you still?
Yeah. You still cool? Are you still down with the cock?
Yes, exactly.
Just
curious.
curious.
Is that still something on the menu? I just want to ask. So it's a very awkward few phone calls.
I thought you were going to say the lawyers were asking, please make sure all these people are still out. That they didn't find themselves back in for business when they.
Well, what was fascinating was one person I talk about. Originally in the thing, I had made a joke because he and I used to perform in our closet in the room. And we used to do little reviews for the counselors at this camp.
In your closet.
And of course, I had to make a closet joke about that. And he came back to me and said no closet jokes because I actually wasn't closeted at that time. And so I was like, aha, that's fair. Can't make a closeted joke there. So I thought that was fascinating. That what's okay and what's not for people.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, no, I told a story about Michael Clark Duncan in my book, shedding not a terrific light from a real story that happened. That's hilarious to me, and he passed away about 6 weeks before my book came out. And the publishers called and said, I don't know if you heard the news today about who passed, but you still want to keep that story in there where you take a shot at him? And I said, you don't get a pass for dying.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Fair enough.
This really happened. There were witnesses.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair. He's not going to sue you.
Nope.
That's for sure.
Well, he can. That's the beautiful thing. You can sue anybody about anything, but I have far too many witnesses to lose that lawsuit.
Well, I have to say, my experience with him was, by and large, fantastic.
Excellent.
He worked on 2.5 Men, so I will counter that. But we did a charity softball game in which he nailed a line drive right into my penis. So there's that. So I may jump on that anti-Michael Clark Duncan bandwagon with you.
Yeah.
But other than that, a scintillating guy.
Yeah.
I don't want to get too technical,
But
Yeah.
please do.
but he nailed your penis, but
Yes.
not your testicles.
No,
So this,
shockingly.
So what you're
There's
saying
enough.
here,
There's enough.
to be
There's
clear,
enough difference.
He got
There's
his
enough
penis,
differential.
He got his penis and also his thigh.
yeah.
Now are you understanding what
So we have
happened?
a regular Milton Berle on the show today. I see. Very well.
A regular LeBron James. No.
Wait for it.
Not really. But at any rate, but I, you know,
Yeah.
I love the gentleman.
You're gonna
I miss
want
him
to.
dearly.
You're gonna want. Well, you're gonna want to. You're gonna want to keep that penis away from line drives in the future.
You're right.
If
No,
I could,
haven't been back.
if
I've
I
not
could,
been back to
if I
a charity
could,
softball game
if I could
since.
suggest anything, your makeup artist for many years on the television program involving 2.5 Men was a makeup artist that I had. I'm going to say easily 25 years ago. We talked about Shelley briefly before we started the show, but I didn't mention that my fondest memory of Shelley is that she invited me into, and I joined a pyramid scheme.
Oh,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, so that's
Great.
how long ago it was. You remember about 25 years ago where the pyramid thing went around and everybody was like instantly an Amway salesman type of
Well,
person?
there's been a million of them, but
I'm sure.
but
I
which was
haven't-
yours? Which
I
was your
haven't
particular
heard
iteration
one
of it?
Since, well, it was literally get everybody to put in $100. Yeah,
Okay.
which is was quite the payout when you got down to the bottom.
I gotta figure.
I think there was something like 12 squares at the bottom or something that had to, the whole thing was filled, and yeah.
Yeah. So well,
But it was my only experience with a pyramid in my entire life. That's the only reason it actually lingers to this day.
Got it. Well, Shelley ended up becoming my makeup artist on 2.5 Men, but predating that, she was my sister. So, but that in no way means that I owe you your $100.
No, I got paid.
Oh, you got paid?
I got paid.
Hey!
Yeah, several of my friends very upset.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me. You
that I-
actually got paid?
That I got in after me. Well, if you hustle and get people in after you,
Yeah. Well,
it
that's
actually
that's how it works.
It technically works. Let's start one now, shall we?
Yes. This is
Sammy, you
want to
fill the?
Yeah, I got $100.
It's been a while.
Sammy's
people
always
might
in for
fall
100.
it again.
Now, okay, so let's start with the born and raised
Okay.
in the town of,
New York, a small town,
but specifically
the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
okay.
The wilds of the Upper West Side of Manhattan.
It
where
must
the
have been.
street gangs do dance numbers.
Well, the folks were both theater actors
Yes.
at the time of the birth.
At the time of the birth, at the exact time of the birth, my father was in the Fantastics off Broadway.
I'll say.
Yes, and it was I was born at 8:15 on a
show
Friday
night?
night. On a Friday night.
So he wasn't there.
So he was, he was there. He was there. It was an understudy.
Great
night.
news for his understudy.
Yes, exactly.
Every night the understudies, get that kid yet?
Damn it! She's gonna need a C-section. This is bullshit. But yeah, that's when I was born, and my parents soon were doing 1776 on Broadway. That was the first show that I remember being around that I have sentient memories of.
Wow. Going to rehearsal or something?
And yeah, when the show was on, I remember being backstage, and 1776, as you know, was a musical about the American Revolution.
By you know, you mean the royal you.
Yes, I mean, well, no, I don't know.
One could know.
Yes, one could know, but I don't know your musical theater.
Zippo.
Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, I will. All of my musical theater references, I will explain to you.
You know, it's a big,
and
huge
the
fan
viewers
of the
as
musical
well.
theater, Sam Levine.
Sam Levine.
Monster fan.
Yeah.
Oh,
and by the way,
awesome.
but by that I mean the Sam Levine with only one M.
That's correct.
Yeah.
The late Sam Levine.
Yes,
The late Sam
exactly,
Levine.
the dead
Yeah.
one. Okay.
So, how old were you when you were walking around backstage in 1776 and seeing all those giant sets and moving
yeah.
pieces, like 4 or 5?
Probably 3 or 4. And it was great because the women wore the bustles and the big wigs, and it was it was crazy. But I recall being really intrigued by the theater at that time, and it seemed like it was magical almost.
Yeah.
Because it was such a huge land of pretend, and there was the audience, and you could hear them just roaring outside there, and it was
Strange
really,
noise.
Yeah, it was a deeply strange noise.
When you're not standing in front of them.
Yeah. And my dad ended up going back to the Fantastics later, and that was where I sort of had my first sort of sexual stirrings, because I would go backstage and the girls in the cast, women rather, would be changing, but with a very cavalier attitude about
like
about
all
people
theater
seeing.
folk.
Like all theater folk.
You
We're
don't
known
care.
for having loose morals.
You're
and
backstage.
We're backstage.
You're getting
We're
dressed.
walking
You're
around in our
having
underwear.
sex. Yeah.
Exactly. This is what we do. So I remember, it's as clear as day. The first couple of times I saw women walking around that way, and I was just going, oh,
Yeah.
It was a big deal.
By then you were 6.
Yes, you could see how the Michael Clark Duncan line drive could strike.
Well, it
in
couldn't
one
do
particular
anything. You
place.
pretty much run the gambit at that point. Anyway,
Yeah.
you had done all the damage you were going to do. Really,
really, with it.
At that point,
my kid was born. Whatever.
Soon you were off to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
Yes.
Was that just one semester or 1 year?
No,
or
it was.
one-
They have a summer Shakespeare program.
Summer Shakespeare program. Sure.
Which was
Not easy to get into, I'm assuming.
Apparently it was. The artistic director of the summer camp that I went to, that theater camp that I spoke about called Stage Door Manor, he was a legendary graduate of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. So I mean, obviously there's many way more legendary graduates of the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, but he wrote me a letter, a recommendation, and that apparently got me in.
Was this something he was saying to the students at the Stage Door Manor, saying, if you take this seriously, these are the sort of things that it might lead to, or did you suss this out on your own?
I completely sussed it out on my own. But then years later, I found out that it was not true, that the artistic director of my camp had never attended the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art.
But could in fact write a letter.
Could in fact write a letter. That this was basically that he had a bullshit resume. And
in show business?
But he must have written such a letter because I got into the Royal Academy. God
Yeah.
bless him. So that got me in, and I studied it for a summer, with a lot of other, with some Americans, some Brits, and it was a wonderful window into another style of acting.
Now, when you found out that he had lied on his resume in the world of show business, did you immediately contact the Guinness Book people?
Yes, because that
it
was necessary.
It was such an oddity.
At that moment. No, but it was I didn't find out until fairly recently that was not the case.
Whoa.
And I was actually in the middle of the 2.5 Men craziness when I found that out. So it was just like all of my illusions were shattered. It's like, wait, Charlie Sheen does drugs and my old teacher was full of it.
I'm not sure where to put those two things, quite frankly. Holy crap. Well, and also this wonderful solid that you're, at that time, one of your acting mentors, I'm assuming, as a youngster, guy who ran the Stage Door Manor, is that what it was?
Stage Door Manor,
Yeah.
yes. Still running today,
Yeah.
wildly popular.
Quite
Oh,
famous.
I have a
Yeah.
couple of questions
Mm-hmm.
from a few alumni.
Oh, great. Oh, great.
I do.
We will hit those.
Yes, we will.
Yes.
So when you're over there, how old are you when you go to the Royal Shakespeare?
I was 17 when I went to the Royal Academy.
Had you been to the Europes prior?
I had, yes, I had visited once. My mother was a playwright, and one of her shows was staged in London. So I went to London, and and it's London. It's fabulous. It was, and we were there when Reagan was shot. Actually, not everybody was not sad when that happened in Britain. In Britain, they had decidedly mixed feelings about Reagan getting shot, which I have to say I was a little surprised.
Yeah, I'm sure it was an odd moment to experience that sort of lack of love
Yeah.
for the world leader, former actor.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how soon after is the Torch Song trilogy? You start to do. Is the entry position in the world of Broadway as a stand-in or as a cast member?
For me, it was. I was my very first job on Broadway was as Matthew Broderick's understudy. In Brighton Beach Memoirs.
Right.
And in the book, I have a couple of photos of he and I at that time, and it was pretty remarkable how similar we looked at that time. In fact, when I first went and auditioned for a part that he had originated, which was actually in Torch Song Trilogy, as I stepped out onto stage, I heard this horrifying gasp, this, and I was sort of like, that's never what you're going for in an audition situation. And I looked out and I realized it's Harvey Fierstein.
That's just the way he
and
breathes.
That's just the way he breathes. No, he was just, he was shocked that I looked so much like Matthew.
It's remarkable.
Matthew. Yes, exactly. It's remarkable. Darling. So I auditioned for that and auditioned for Brighton Beach Memoirs within a day of each other, and I actually got understudy roles in both shows on the same day. Basically, I got offered 2 parts in one day.
There was someone else you wrote about in the book that was interchangeable with you in the understudy world at the time.
There was
of note.
Oh, really? There was a bunch of us actually. There was me and Fisher Stevens.
Fisher Stevens was the one I was thinking of.
And Patrick Dempsey was down there. When I first met him, he had just come from Maine. He'd flown in from Maine, and he was this bright-eyed and bushy-tailed juggler. He was like, "Want to see me juggle?" He can still juggle, by the way. He can juggle like a motherfucker. Just so you know.
To this day.
To this day.
Yeah. Now it tends to be more women than balls.
But
wow.
But there was a whole bunch of us that were all at the same time, sort of circulating through those parts.
Yeah, but only one of you was married to Michelle Pfeiffer. Were they actually married?
No, I don't think so.
I think they were just together forever.
Yes, for
a really long
while.
time,
and became a metaphor. They transcended. They became the metaphor for a plain-looking guy with astonishing woman couple. They were the Billy Joel,
Christy Brinkley.
Lyle
Lovett, Julia Roberts.
Yes, the Lyle Lovett, Julia Roberts.
There's been a few moments that have reinvented that wheel. And I would say Fisher Stevens and Michelle Pfeiffer might have been one of them, but I think on a more laxed scale.
Okay.
Than certainly the one you mentioned, Sam. Mm-hmm. Lyle Lovett to block. Well, those plays, when you got to join the company, must have been an extraordinary experience. For as a child, watching your parents and feeling the sounds from the audience and the magic of backstage, to being in them yourself.
Oh, it was terrifying. It was absolutely terrifying. Being an understudy is a weird sort of purgatory. You're there, but you like while I was Matthew's understudy, I never went on. Motherfucker is healthy.
How many shows are we talking?
It's 8 shows a week.
No, but I mean in total that you were his understudy.
I was his understudy only for a couple of months because, as I say in the book, I got fired, which was very exciting. Because I was a dick. I did not because understudies only get to rehearse twice a week. And as an understudy, I did not know what the expectations were. And what the expectations were that you watch the show every night, and you know all your lines within a week or so. Now, the part that I was understudying Matthew Broderick for was Eugene Jerome, and he won a Tony for it. It's a huge part. The show is 2.5 hours, and he's the lead, and he has these enormous monologues to the audience. And so I did not, by the 4 or 5 week mark, I still didn't know all the lines, but I only rehearsed twice a week. But
you had the rest of the week to work on your own?
To work out. Yes, I did, Kevin. Thank you for pointing that out.
How old were you at this point?
I was 18
Well, who has their shit together at 19?
Not me.
I ask you.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So they fired me. And you know what? In the end, it's for the best. You really need to have your ass handed to you in order to understand show business.
But how do they know you hadn't memorized it all?
Well, it would be me performing on stage and going, line.
During rehearsal?
During rehearsal.
I see.
Yeah. So it was a, but as I said, you really do need to have your ass handed to you because this is a business. This is for real.
They need you at every waking moment that the show's going on as an understudy.
Yes, exactly.
That purgatory you speak of. I've never heard, quite frankly, the story told of what that experience is actually like. And I'm therefore fascinated by what that really means if you're standing in the wings should something happen to them during the performance, or is it just they're not available to go on at curtain?
Yeah, no, yes, even if something happens during the show, you're expected to be there. A lot of the time, once they start the second act.
So how many shows before it's...
Before what?
Before you're standing in the wings like this?
Oh. Reading a book.
And not actually watching the show.
Oh, you're not watching the show every night as an understudy. You're backstage hanging out. You'll know if there's a problem and you've got to go out on stage. That happens very rarely.
Sure.
But one does want to be ready. And eventually, sometimes there's actors who are just so dependable, unfortunately, like Matthew Broderick, that they'll give you call-in privileges. And at half hour, you call in, and if the actor's there, they say, go out and have dinner, or go enjoy yourself for the evening. But I did not get to that point with the show. I was fired long before that time. Mm-hmm. So, but as I said, it really taught me the work is the work, and that's the most important thing. There's just no fucking around. So a year later, after I'd done a movie, they asked me back to be in the show, and so then it added all this weight of I had something to prove. I had to prove that I was good enough to be in the show, and that was terrifying. But I have to say the sense of accomplishment after I finished that very first performance was just enormous. It was just in your face. That was the most spiteful performance of that character ever, because I had a grudge about that. But
in truth, it was something you were proving to yourself.
Yes. And actually, a few months later, Biloxi Blues opened, which was the sequel to Brighton Beach Memoirs, and it was a huge hit. And they had trouble finding an understudy for Matthew in that. Matthew Broderick was playing the role again, and so they asked me to understudy him while I was doing Brighton Beach Memoirs downtown. So, in other words, I would learn his whole part as well as the one I'm doing every night. and if he was out, I would run uptown, get into his costume, and my understudy would go on in Brighton Beach Memoirs on Broadway.
Because the new show was more important.
Because the new show was the priority.
To Neil Simon.
Exactly. Exactly.
I think I became familiar with Eugene Jerome from Biloxi more than the Brighton.
Well, yes, it was a more popular movie. Did you see the movie?
Certainly.
Or yeah.
And it's arguably my favorite Christopher Walken role.
Oh, really? Okay. Really?
In Biloxi, yeah.
That's your favorite? He was great in that, don't get me wrong.
Sergeant Toomey, just spectacular.
Well,
it's an extraordinary, it's very, very complex. And a lot of the, I think, power of his performance is played through Matthew Broderick's eyes and emotions in terms of the actual strength and fear that's being created by the crazy sergeant.
Yes.
So maybe I'm giving too much credit to Christopher Walken. Yeah.
But, hey, I agree, man. I think Matthew's a fantastic actor. One of the problems is, looking so much like him, we never were cast to be in the same movies. I'd love to work with him someday. I've never had a chance.
Never got to play a role where he had a brother. The fuck?
What the fuck? Exactly. Life isn't fair.
Nor should it be. Carnal Knowledge as a play?
The question you're asking is what should have been asked before we actually did the play. I talk about it in the book. In the late 80s, I was asked to be in a theater production of Carnal Knowledge, the movie.
Yeah.
But it was originally written as a play by Jules
Pfeiffer. Yeah.
Mike Nichols read it and said, I think this would be a movie. This should be a movie, in fact. And of course, it became a remarkable movie with Jack Nicholson and Art Garfunkel and Candice Bergen. And but when they first approached me about doing the play, it was going to be me and John Cusack and Brooke Shields doing the play. And I said, okay, that sounds great. Then I got another call say, well, Cusack and Shields are out. So it's you and Judd Nelson and Justine Bateman. And I actually, I thought, I love Justine Bateman, but I thought it was odd casting because she's not known, that the character's not what she's great at, which is the dry wit. And Judd Nelson is Judd Nelson, you know. So
Is he already having exploded from the Brat Pack fame?
yes, exactly. And so, but the book goes on to talk about. I mean, it was a very strange, perhaps ill-starred production from day one.
You knew during rehearsal.
Yeah, it's pretty clear. Every now and then you have those it'll be all right on the night things where everything comes together at the last minute and it's just fucking great.
And I would assume that people start to count on that.
Yes, yes. You start to think, well, maybe we can pull this out. But it was interesting because Judd was actually terrific. He was playing the Jack Nicholson role, which is a tall order, you know, and he was actually terrific. Although I think he's used to being the craziest person in the room, and we had an actress named Janine Turner who was also on the show, whose character at one point attempts suicide. So she was playing the Anne Margaret role. And so in order to plumb the depths of that character, which is a really messed up psychological place, Janine drove herself bonkers. And so Judd was faced with, okay, I'm used to being the craziest person in the room, and yet, you know, how do I top this? Because Janine just used to sit with her legs sort of spread eagled. She'd sit in the corner of the room and bonk her head on the floor for a while.
During the show?
During rehearsals.
Okay.
and Judd would walk
choice.
around sort of muttering, and Justine actually was in her poetry slam phase. So she would, unbidden, jump into poetry spontaneously.
Why would you think this was a doomed production?
Yeah, I don't know.
There are no signs.
There's no signs. So at any rate, it was fascinating. You know, as I say, it's a long story in the book, but it was, you know, you never, things so rarely become what your idea of them are at the beginning. I'm sure you've read scripts where you go, yeah, this will come together exactly how I expected, and it just not at all.
Yeah, I try to remove all those expectations every time.
Oh, well, that's good. No, but how many of those experiences did it take before you started doing that?
20
Okay, that's all it took? Before you said, you know what?
years.
Yeah, I still do it to a certain extent. I'm always still expecting the best, which is wrong.
Wow.
I know.
I don't know anyone left who expects the best. Good on you. I mean, that's an extraordinary way to go through life. Disappointment after disappointment.
Yeah, exactly.
I've gotten to a real. I did this pilot that's been picked up to go to series, and the whole production of the pilot, I was the one on the set saying we have no chance. But I wasn't saying it as a way to lower everyone's expectations. I really meant it. Mm-hmm. My agent always stops by the show at some point. And in fact, I think the series has no chance.
Great.
Yeah, I think it'll be half dozen episodes will be gone by year's end.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Very exciting.
See you at the Emmys, pal.
But it has Jane Lynch,
who's wonderful.
So if you could attach yourself to the right wagon.
Yes, the Lynch wagon.
The Lynch wagon is incredible.
But now wait, is this
Angel from Hell?
Angel from Hell with Maggie Lawson.
The great Maggie Lawson, yeah.
Who I love. Well, dude, that could work.
We follow Mom.
You're right after Mom. Well, you were on Mom. They killed you on Mom. They killed you. Boy,
and
did
5
they kill
months
you.
later, I'm back.
And you're back. Exactly. It's
I'm
lovely.
going to confuse the 3 fans who tweet me every day. Why did they kill you on Mom? What a great question for me.
Yes, you are the one who decides
Why
that.
did they kill you on Mom? I don't know.
I don't know why they kill people. They just do.
Someone had
They
an
kill
idea.
people.
Someone had an epiphany.
Yeah, somebody in the room said, you know what's going to be great?
Yeah.
We're going to kill Kevin. Oh,
well, now,
sure.
here's
That's
an
the thing.
interesting-
Around the table, everybody had to say, yes, we are on board for this.
Everyone
We are killing
was
Kevin.
so excited about the idea to do a red wedding on a sitcom. Well, now, the movie you talked about that you went away to do, I'm assuming was the Bob Altman picture? Was that the...
Oh, yes. That was my very first
movie
role ever.
I love that little story in the beginning of the thing, too. You're in the beginning of the book. Your first day on your first film, is Robert Altman throwing fake bird poo on the actors as they came out of the wedding.
Yes, yes. Well, yeah, because he's a genius. The man is a genius.
Yeah.
And so when you're showing up to work with the genius, you're on board. You say, I'm not going to tell the genius.
Whatever happens.
How is it? Exactly. But I loved the story. What the story about it was that he's such a perfectionist that the normal ways of flinging the bird poo on us did not suffice.
I also like that in the description it seems like at one point the producers or someone or Robert Altman himself might have counted on releasing the birds to create a natural flow of bird droppings.
Exactly.
I love that on paper. Well, the birds will shit on them, right? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
All right, good.
Let's see what happens. Let's watch the magic happen.
How many birds were there?
There was a fair amount.
Yeah.
There was a fair amount. There was probably 7 or 8 of them.
And did they understand we're going again?
It took a while to reset, I have to say, and capture the doves and bring them back. But apparently these are professional wedding doves.
I'll say.
This is what they do.
Yeah. Who later got bought by John Woo to be in every film that he ever
every
did.
single one fluttering in slow-mo. They flutter in slow-mo.
Yeah, they do.
Now, I have a weird thing as an actor.
Please.
Whenever I know I'm being photographed in slow-mo, I move slower anyway.
I think that's from childhood. When you would fake slow motion. When you first discovered that was a thing.
Exactly.
What a moment in childhood that is. Hey,
you can fake it.
we could go in slow motion. And then it's the greatest thing you've ever thought of in your life.
Exactly. It's funny, and the words go slow, and
And then somebody says undercrank, and you go, huh?
What?
You want me to be in slow motion? I'll give you slow motion.
Yes, exactly.
Why do we need to? So when they're undercranking the camera and shooting in a way that will create the slow motion effect, you as an actor are now admitting you still go a little slower.
I go a little slower. I'm trying to help the process. I'm a giver. It's what I do. I'm a giver.
When did you find out in the acting career that when you eat in a scene, you should be really careful how you do that? Given that there'll be multiple takes.
The second movie I ever did, No Small Affair, with Demi Moore, and I had an eating scene, and you chow down that first time. And they'll give you the spit bucket, and you're like, "What's the spit bucket for?"
You guys can't handle your food?
Exactly.
I'm hungry.
But then you realize that on film, because 2 takes in, you're full. And then on film, later on, you can see you're totally faking it by taking the tiny bite and just gnawing on it like crazy. So I learned that on my first one, and also that open mouth kissing, for me, has to be very, very careful. Because it looks like I'm passionate. I'm a passionate man.
All right.
I think you knew that about me.
It's in the research.
Okay.
It's in your dossier.
And so the first time I had to, make out with Demi Moore, I made out with Demi Moore. God damn it. And in the film, it looks like I'm trying to suck the makeup off her face. It's just this blubber of Hoover lips and just...
Which is why the two of you ultimately started dating, I understand.
Yes, exactly. Well, I set the bar very high.
She didn't mind having her makeup removed.
Apparently not.
Yeah.
It's nice at the end of the day. You got nothing. You don't have to go home and scrub with your Cetaphil or whatever. At any rate, but I learned that looks horrible on film. That actually, that a good-looking kiss is a little bit open mouth. Well, you see it. It's in the final movie.
Did the director maybe come by? And...
No, it was a
You didn't find out till you saw the film?
Till I saw the movie. Watch the movie.
You must have been horrified.
It is horrifying. And the director was named Jerry Schatzberg. Lovely gentleman, but very quiet, and was reticent to give notes. Gave very few notes. He would just say, it was wonderful. It was very good. That was it at the end of the thing. And so nobody told me at the time.
No small affair?
No small affair. It's horrifying.
Maybe if you'd spoke up a little bit, we'd know the film better.
Oh, really? Okay. What do you mean? I did the rounds. I did Johnny Carson for No Small Affair. Yeah, I did.
What was that like?
Merv Griffin. I did.
Merv was the shit.
Merv was the shit.
Merv was totally the
shit. He listened. We had a great time. It was a great interview. In fact, I did him and Johnny on the same day. How many people have said that?
First of all, settle down.
And I have to say, he was a little more on his game that particular day than Johnny. But Johnny had just interviewed Pia Zadora. I was like fourth after Pia Zadora.
That didn't take any of the air out of the room.
No.
When he had Pia Zadora on. One of the greatest manufactured movie stars
God bless
in
her.
history.
God bless her.
Yeah.
And
she was the punchline to the classic joke of the producer's got a girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, honestly.
No, I don't even know I can't believe I do not know that
Xavier
joke.
Cugat was her benefactor / husband.
Really? No.
I think he was 98.
It was Muslim Rickless.
Oh, Xavier Cugat might have been Charo.
Yes.
Oh God.
Look it up quick.
We
Xavier
should have a
Cugat
club.
might have been
Muslim
Charo.
and Xavier
Yeah.
should have some
Yeah,
sort
these
of club.
names are starting to mean something.
Yes. I can't believe I remember Muslim Rickless.
Well, tell me the first time on Carson. We haven't had many guests talk about that because I've got my own memories, of course, but I'd love to hear yours.
It was terrifying.
Yep.
You can tell.
You've been watching the show your
I have
whole
seen
life.
It. It's terrible.
What year are we talking?
86, 87, somewhere
Yeah, so
around there.
it's important to remind people that in that time, mid-'80s, there was no second place in terms
Yeah.
of a threat to the throne.
There wasn't. It was just him.
Yeah.
It was just him. I came on. I was last. He was tired. I was stunned that he smoked during the show. He had a little. Did you notice that?
was
He's got a little
underneath-
ashtray
Yeah,
with the cigarette perch.
As a fan of the show, one of my favorite things was coming back from commercial and seeing him put the cigarette under the.
Yes,
do
and there'd be
this.
the little wisp. Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
We're back with my guest, Smokey the Bear. And so, but when he's talking to you, also just the talk show, first couple of times experience of the famous, iconic Carson's face
Talking to you.
2 feet from you, and you're seeing the bags under his eyes, and you're seeing a real human being. It's about as surreal as show business ever got.
Terrifying.
Yeah.
Absolutely terrifying for me. And I had a couple of times where he'd ask me a question, I would take a moment to think of the answer, and then forget what the question was.
In the moment?
I had that twice.
During your
during my
5-minute interview.
which was fourth after Pia Zadora. And Betty White, by the way, who was lovely even then, I'm going to say. She was so nice to me. But yeah, it was an abortion. It was terrible, and you know
It was almost 30 years ago, John.
yes,
You need to let this go.
I'm
glad I brought it up.
Thank you. You didn't. I brought it up. I'm
You
an
know what?
idiot.
I'm
an
going to let you
idiot.
stir there for a moment in the memory, if you
Thank
don't
you.
mind, while I read this wonderful ad from the fine folks at Foot Cardigan.
There is a foot cardigan?
Oh, buddy, Mike, do I have good news for you? Father's Day coming up. I believe
yes.
you're one of them.
Yes.
Then really, this is an ad to your son.
Okay.
All right. His name again?
Charlie.
Charlie. Father's Day is next Sunday. Let's be honest, Charlie.
Charlie.
We've done the same thing for too long. Dad's got way too many coffee cups, braided leather belts, David Beckman fragrance sets, and tech accessories he'll never understand.
David Beckman?
Beckman.
You do Beckham?
I always say Beckman.
Okay.
I like
just
to make
curious.
everyone Jewish.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's like
The
Superman.
great soccer
Batman.
player. Yeah. Superman. Able to lease a tall building in a single bound. What happened? You know that Dad doesn't. Thank you. A 7-second delay up there? What's happening? You know that Dad doesn't have too many of badass socks from Foot Cardigan. A subscription to Foot Cardigan will get your dad, seated at the table now, one random pair of awesome socks delivered to his mailbox every month. Yeah, you heard that.
What the?
He'll remember your super thoughtful gift every month for as long as you want him to, because you see, you can order month to month for 3, 6, 9, or 12 month. Pay one subscriptions available. Foot Cardigan delivers one pair of amazing socks. So no more awful socks, no more mismatch argyles, only badass socks from here on out. You're welcome, people of the world and Charlie. The gift that makes your dad's pleated khakis look great. Be your dad's favorite kid. How about that, Charlie?
Yes, good
Do you
luck
want to
with that.
win the competition? Get him a subscription to Foot Cardigan. Your sibling, just the one, right?
I have a daughter. Yes, he has one sibling.
Yeah.
That's what you're asking.
Your sibling won't be able to hold. I'm trying to gear all of this to just Charlie.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sure the company is thrilled about that.
The sponsor will not be happy about this.
Great. We got that
But
one
you always
sale.
wanted to be your Dad's favorite son. It's going to happen, Charlie, because you're his only son. So all the lame-o Father's Day gifts go out the window. Get your dad a subscription to Foot Cardigan, one random pair of fantastically fantastic socks your grandfather was into Fantastics. Delivered straight to the mailbox every month. How about getting 10% off of any Foot Cardigan subscription by going to footcardigan.com and entering DADBOD3, DADBOD 3, during checkout. Your dad will remember Father's Day every single month. Thank you to the fine folks at Foot Cardigan for sponsoring this show so the rest of you can enjoy it for free.
We have some answers for you.
Okay, good.
For those who still are interested.
Please.
Pia Zadora was married to Muslim Rickless.
Boom!
Who was 32 years her senior.
Oh.
Boom!
And Charo was in fact married to Xavier Cugat, who was an astounding 51 years older than she.
No, he
Wow.
He wins.
Wow.
He wins.
Hoochie coochie indeed.
She was born in 51. He was born in 1900.
Wow.
So she's 27.
Wow.
And he's 78.
Uh-huh.
That's
That's
fantastic.
great.
That really is.
That is.
That's what makes the world go round, people. We have a portion on the show called Famous Questions,
Okay.
where questions come from famous people
Oh, goodness.
that know you.
Uh-huh.
Really, it's just a chance for me to show off who I have contacts with,
Yes.
and
All right.
use you to do so.
Great.
As I threatened you, we have a question from a alumni from the
French
Stage Door Manor.
Stage Door Manor.
Stage Door Manor.
Many famous alumni that I'm sure are on your contact list.
I'm going to ask the question first. Maybe you can
Is it
guess.
from Robert Downey Jr.?
No, it's not RDJ.
Natalie Portman?
Natalie Portman? No. Zach Braff?
Maybe you can guess by the question.
Okay, we'll see.
Maybe this will act as a hint.
Okay.
Or maybe everyone at the camp that summer knew this. Ask John if he was ever in a crystal forest with any Cubans.
Yes.
That ring a bell?
That rings a bell because that artistic director of the camp, his name was Jack Romano, there was a lot of acting exercises that were super dumb. And this
Weird.
one was
Theater camp?
Yeah, theater camp. Yes, this one was a crystal forest. You are waking up. He spoke with this ridiculous accent. You are waking up in the crystal forest, but you cannot speak. You must start the exercise as though you've fallen asleep and you woke up in a crystal forest without your voice for some reason. And the idea was, as an actor, you had to somehow give the impression you were in a crystal forest. So you'd be up there with a bunch of people.
Communicate without words.
Exactly. And one of my favorite times was I woke up with my friend. My friend Eric was also in the same class, and he was an odd kid. And I saw.
Again, theater camp.
Again, theater camp. We all woke up, and we were all doing a lot of, a lot of that. A girl obviously was picking up what I guess was a crystal squirrel,
Sure.
a small, and she was petting it, and she turned around to him and tapped his shoulder, and he turned around and she offered the crystal squirrel to him, saying, crystal squirrel. He saw it. His reality was a little different on that one. That was a lovely moment. So yes, I did that and many other ridiculous exercises. We had one, and this became a legend actually. We had one called the Subway Improv.
Sure.
Where the idea was, and I think this was around the time of Son of Sam, so I think it was inspired by that. But the idea was that all the kids had to come on stage, and at the end of the stage, the lip of the stage was a subway platform. And we all had to, we were allowed to use words and things like that, but we had to communicate the citywide fear that there was a serial killer on the loose on this subway platform. And so Jack Romano would say, okay, now go. And what happens is, the end of the exercise would be him clapping his hand to say a train had arrived, and that was the end of the exercise. Well, I decide that I'm going to mix it up a little here, and I come out and I'm acting very. I start whistling "Strangers in the Night," I start, acting oddly. The idea is that I'm going to scare everybody on the platform because they're all scared about this serial killer. Jack starts clapping his hands, so the subway comes in, and just as it comes in, I jump in front of the train and actually, oh no, I'm not the serial killer. I'm a guy committing suicide. And Jack, whose admiration I longed for at this time, his jaw dropped open, and he was like, "Oh, that was wonderful. I have never seen that before. No one has ever done that in the class." And it was a great moment for me. I felt like I'd done a great thing as an actor. And that was talked about for years in the camp, the day that I shocked Jack Romano. Eventually a book was written about the camp, and they wrote about the Subway Improv, about what a big game changer it was, and they said that it had been done by Robert Downey Jr. And I was livid. And actually, that's why I wrote the book.
Yeah.
And that was the reason, was to correct that historic wrong.
Yeah.
That was me, goddammit.
I got a picture, similarly why you wrote the book. I got a picture of me on the Tonight Show teaching Johnny Carson how to do a William Shatner impression with his arms thrust forward. And I put that photo in the book, and the caption underneath said, "I just wrote the book so I could show off this picture." It's funny how that works. So we haven't guessed yet who this was from your theater camp.
Yes, I don't know who that was.
It was Josh Charles.
Josh Charles! I love Josh Charles.
Yeah.
America loves Josh Charles.
We have one more from another former campmate.
Okay.
Tell us about making wine in your room at Stage Door Manor.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Is that in the book?
That is, I don't know. I don't remember if that's in the book. Yeah, I think it is. We used to get care packages.
Right.
And at one point,
Just like toilet wine from prison?
yes. Well, no, actually, we didn't. The first year I was there, I was under the impression that you couldn't get that kind of stuff. I later found out over the successive years that counselors could absolutely be bribed, and you could get a gallon of Ernest and Julio Gallo in your room. Yes.
The only kind of wine they provide?
Yes, the big jug.
Sure.
You get the big jug with the pop, and you could hit that hard. I did not know that. No, what happened was somebody sent grapes to my roommate, and at one point I stole them, and he knocked them out of my hand, and so I was picking them up off the ground, and then another guy whacked me with a towel right in my that got the towel. I don't even know what those are
Rat
called.
tail?
Rat tail. Thank you. Did a rat tail whack.
Larry Driscoll got
Yes.
it pretty bad.
It got me right on the inside of my thigh. I screamed like a little girl, scattering grapes everywhere in the room. We lost a few of them underneath the beds.
Sure.
And they proceeded to ferment through the rest of the summer, causing a winery stink, a nice Napa Valley winery stink in our room the whole time.
That one came
Who's that? Yes. I still don't know. That's Natalie Portman.
David Quinn.
Oh, David Quinn. We love David Quinn.
Recipes.com is how we remember David Quinn.
Yes.
All
recipes.
recipes.com.
All recipes.
Yeah.
Motherfucker. Not just
John,
one.
I want you to know I don't get to do panel that often, but when I do, I'm not going to tell any stories about me from now on. I'm just going to tell the story, setting the record straight about you in the subway.
Thank you. See, this is how it spreads.
Yes.
This is how people finally understand
I
the
will
truth.
carry that torch for you.
Exactly.
One more question from David
Whew.
Quinn.
Yeah, oh, great.
Your first role
Yes.
was as an orphan in Oliver,
It's true. He's not wrong.
but I'm told you made even more of it by naming your character.
It was an acting camp, so they tried to make everybody in the cast feel like they were really contributing. So
And you weren't Oliver.
and I wasn't Oliver.
And they didn't name all the orphans.
So the director insisted that we all write a bio.
Oh, God.
For our
Which you continue to do to this day
Which-
whenever,
yes,
whenever
exactly.
you get hired
Whenever
to
I've
act in
got
a
one.
film or a television show.
But it was funny because all the kids, when we started rehearsals, they all, in picking their characters, all decided on picking some sort of impairment. One of them, had a hunchback. One of them had missing a leg. One of them, one was missing an eye.
Can't just be a dirty little orphan.
No, you can't apparently. And so that was my big choice. It was the first time I ever made a brave acting choice. Was that I made my character able-bodied. In Oliver.
And gave him a name.
Exactly, and his name was Toby Felcher. Thank you very much.
Toby Felcher.
Toby Felcher.
Felcher.
Yes.
Is the name of a.
That's the name I pick. I'm given all the
orphan
names
from Dickens.
in the English
His name-
language, and I pick Toby Felcher.
Which one of you is Toby Felcher?
Right, exactly, exactly, and I think it's all I think I think that has been something that I've relied upon as an actor ever since.
Yeah. And when was the next time that you created a backstory for one of your characters?
Oh no, I've had to do that. I had to play Perchik, the fiery revolutionary in Fiddler on the Roof.
Of course.
And I was wearing an outrageously billowy shirt. So I gave him a backstory of that he had been a performer in the local light opera before he became a fiery revolutionary. And he just kept his trove of billowy white shirts.
From local theater.
From local theater, exactly. So it all informs the craft.
Yes. Our 1 degree of separation would be the great Howie Deutsch.
Oh my goodness. I love Howie Deutsch.
And to say that he might have had an impactful involvement in your career would be one of the great understatements. There was a process of auditioning, of course, for the Pretty in Pink picture that involved some singing and performing.
Not singing, actually. It was lip syncing.
Lip syncing.
But interesting, I didn't have to do that at the audition.
Oh, good.
That was the original script called for Ducky to come into the record store at one point lip syncing a song. And so, I had a bunch of ideas about what song we could do. I wanted to do Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones.
And a Michael Jackson number also.
Yes, or there was, or a Michael Jackson song, or you could do State of Shock, which was Mick Jagger and Michael Jackson both.
Hello.
Come on. People forget that. People forget that there is State of Shock.
And you offered that up.
I offered that up.
Once you had the job.
Exactly.
You didn't mention that during the audition.
No. Well, I did mention it during as like, this is the kind of stuff you can get from me,
No,
folks.
you didn't.
And they still hired me. Shockingly. But no, the audition process for Pretty in Pink was interesting because it was Hughes had already done 16 Candles, and that was very popular. And I knew John Hughes from way back when he used to write for National Lampoon. I didn't know him personally, but I was a fan of his. And so when they asked me to audition for this, I was super excited about it. But I was surprised that he wasn't directing it. And I went in to meet with Howie Deutsch. And he's so laid back. You've worked with him,
yes.
I imagine, yeah.
Twice.
Yes, and he's lovely. And he I read it the first time, I read the first scene, and he just sort of thought about it for a minute and then said, hey, could you go out and read, there's another scene, could you read that? And I said, sure. I went out, and there's all the other actors waiting out there, nervously, and one of them goes in, and I learn the scene, I come back in, I read that scene, and at the end of it, he takes a couple of minutes and says, hey, could you read this scene? Oh, okay. And I would go out, and another actor comes in, and we do this the whole afternoon until I've read every single scene in the movie.
Wow.
With Howie. And I have to say, for an actor, when you're going in and out like that, it feels pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Because you see people go in and come out and just go.
And leave. Yeah.
So that was great. And so I felt pretty confident about it afterwards. But didn't hear about the thing for weeks. Didn't hear about whether I got it or not. There
were some rumblings of some other people.
There was young Robert Downey Jr.
Yes.
He of the famous Subway Improv, which was legendary by this point.
Yeah.
And Fisher Stevens was up for it, as a matter of fact, and there was a bunch of us. And in fact, Molly later admitted on the 25th anniversary DVD, yes, I watched the
Alone.
Yes,
in a
exactly.
bathrobe.
Sadly,
Surrounded by money.
She mentioned that part of the reason she had such a problem with the first ending of Pretty in Pink, which was where Ducky and Andy, her character, end up together.
That was the original
That
scripted
was the
version.
original scripted
Are
version.
fans of the movie out there aware of this?
Yes, I have it at home. I could have brought it in and showed it to you. but
That's
I
all
didn't
right,
think-
John.
I blew it. I dropped the ball. At any rate, she said that had Downey been cast, she could have seen that ending working. But once I was cast, that just sort of threw it all out.
What a lovely thing to say.
Exactly. She's a charmer. That's what she's known for. No, she's just being honest. And actually, it's interesting because we didn't have that sort of sexual chemistry in the thing. Actually, if you could hand me this, I'll show you perhaps why. Now, okay, I'm going to need a close-up.
Can he do
from
something
some
for fuck's
camera?
sake?
Exactly. Kenny, can you get off your ass
Kenny,
for once?
Evil Dr. Chen was.
Is there
I looked
any
over and he's in a
way-
sleeping bag.
Is there any way? Okay, so this coming. It's here.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is a shot of me and Molly Ringwald at the age of 11.
Side by side.
Side by side.
Same haircut.
Okay. Now, okay, you got that? Now, perhaps that's why we shared no sexual chemistry.
Because you were separated at birth?
Exactly. Perhaps we were brother and sister.
I think it's because you changed your kissing style on camera.
Yeah. Not disturbing at all.
No.
By the
not at
way,
all.
whoever was going to play Ducky was going to steal the movie. I mean, the extraordinary star turn that it ends up being for you was on the page. There was no getting away from it. And I like...
You're right. I just barely got away with it. Thank you. I brought nothing to the table. It was all there on the page. Thank you, Kevin, for stating that.
You didn't make it your own.
I didn't make it my own.
No.
I
You didn't
just, I was
originate-
like a puppet. I was like a human animatronic.
But you know what I mean, though, about when you read a script and you go, if I don't steal the movie during this part,
Yeah,
I have failed.
I have failed. No, you're right. I did. I loved the part. I loved the character the first time I read it.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until I saw Breakfast Club, which came out about like 3 weeks after I got the part, that I thought, oh, geez, this might be a really big deal.
Yeah.
Because that movie had,
There was a movement
Yes,
afoot.
it had so hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
It had tapped into the zeitgeist.
Yeah. But so it wasn't, speaking of the dance number and the lip syncing, it wasn't until the night before when Howie Deutsch decides to send a very specific choreographer to you to maybe work on what you might do the next day.
Well, yeah.
No pressure there.
Exactly. I had an idea of they could not afford to get a Rolling Stones song or a Michael Jackson song. This was before people licensed their songs with any regularity. So his idea was to get an Otis Redding song because the man was not alive anymore and could not object. But one does want to do it justice. It's a great song. So he sent me over to Kenny Ortega, who has gone on to High School Musical fame.
But even at the time, he
yeah.
was...
Yeah, he did Dirty Dancing, and
Yeah.
a lot of the famous choreography of the '80s was his. So he and I spent the evening just hoofing and trying to figure out what I could possibly do as a dancer. I'm not a gifted dancer.
Well, the joy of that, though, is that,
Yes.
is that the character should come in and look like he's improvising a dance number, not that he just come from Kenny Ortega's.
Yes, and that's what I brought to the table. Thank you,
Again.
Kevin Pollak. At any rate, yes, but it was funny because I had to show it to Howie the next day, and we were shooting actually on the 3rd Street Promenade, right down the street from here, where we are sitting right now. We were shooting in what is now a restaurant, but was then just an abandoned storefront. And I remember showing it to Howie, and I had just performed with every ounce of energy that I had. It was I ended with a and I'm breathing heavy like it's in Riverdance,
Sure.
And he just sort of scratched his chin and was like, okay, and
Wow.
and he started talking with Lauren Schiller, who's the producer on it, and they just sort of mumbled to each other. And she was like, well, so, and he said, okay. And I said to Howie, how was it? And he said, oh no, it was great, but now we have to shoot it. And it turns out I had caused a huge problem because he now knew that he was going to have to spend a whole day shooting that. and it was going to put him a day behind on his third or fourth day of shooting the movie. And so now he was...
in order to cover
in order
rather,
to-
all that you had
that I
laid
was
out in
bringing
front of
out
him.
there, yeah.
This was not a oneer.
So actually, as a first-time director, which he was on that, it was a very brave thing to do.
No shit.
Because he'd be fighting the studio for the rest of the shoot because he was now a day behind. But you know, I think it's something we're all pretty proud of at this point.
I would think so. Yeah. Try a little tenderness.
Try a little tenderness. Yeah.
Extraordinary. Extraordinary.
Thank you.
And no, no matter who you are, you watch that scene and you have to know who this actor is. Honestly, along with all the tenderness involved in the performance, ultimately, that scene is a star-making moment.
Oh well, thank you.
I mean, I'm the 1 millionth person to tell you this, but
I don't know how to react to it. other
you
than
must
to
have
say
a
thank you.
memory of actual people in show business
Oh.
at the time saying the same thing.
You know, it was when the thing was cut together.
Right.
There was some murmurings that that it might be a big deal, and then I had at that point I still used to take a limo around to all the places that were screening the movies. Like when No Small Affair was screening, I took a car around to all the theaters to see how it was playing to the crowds. You know, because it's weird.
Because you're Dino De Laurentiis?
Because I'm Dino De Laurentiis. Yes, that's me.
What are you talking about?
And I'm Muslim Rickless, and I'm a Xavier
How many
Cugat.
theaters would you hit in a day?
No, I'd be like 3 or 4 in Manhattan. You know, I'm not.
I see.
I wasn't doing it a lot, but it's it's the opening night of your movie. It's kind of exciting.
Unbelievably.
But I remember going to a No Small Affair screening. There's a scene where I had to take off my shirt, and somebody in the back yelled, "Where's the beef?" Which was
Quite popular at the
Quite
time.
popular at the time. It's a reference to was it a Jack in the Box
Wendy's.
commercial? Wendy's commercial. Thank you very much.
It was an old woman, actually, who yelled it out originally.
That's right.
Yes, exactly. It was. I think it was a young man who yelled it out during
the
that
theater.
particular screening.
Here's hoping.
But what was fantastic about when Pretty in Pink came out was that one of the theaters I went to was Lowe's Astor Plaza on 44th Street in Manhattan, and that was the place where I had seen Star Wars, and Star Wars had that big moment at the beginning where the Imperial cruiser goes over, and the audience just erupted in spontaneous applause at that moment. And I had always dreamed of having one of those of being a part of one of those cinematic moments. And I went to the Lowe's 44th Street. I was sitting in the back, and the song ended, Try a Little Tenderness ended, and there was that spontaneous eruption, and I was just like, oh my God, I cannot handle this. It was an amazing moment to be alive.
Were you removed from the theater once they caught you masturbating?
Yes, and that is frowned upon still to this day. Do they still have X-rated movie houses?
Ask Fred Willard. Can you get Fred Willard on the phone?
Do they?
Not really.
Because it seems like there should be a place for where it's a group thing. It shouldn't just be private. It
Yeah.
should be. There's the thrill of the guy down 3 or 4 seats from you. Him too.
Hey,
Great.
Charlie.
So
Hey,
this is
yeah.
about exactly. It's
Yeah.
about community.
Right. Yeah. Well, what an explosive moment, though, truly, and one in
Thanks.
more
Nice
ways
choice
than
of
one. But
words.
no, that you had sort of a manifest destiny about the Star Wars moment, and then living that. That's beyond extraordinary.
Yeah,
quite
it was.
frankly.
Yeah.
And makes my little observation that was a star-making turn seem like the 1 millionth time you had heard that. Because, applause breaks in movie theaters don't happen, really.
A fair amount of times, but but it was nice to be a part of one. It was really. But the weird thing is when you have that and you're 20, and then
Well, that's one of my questions:
Yeah.
is how do you keep your shit together as a 20-year-old when that sort of thing happens?
I was lucky enough because my parents were in the theater, and I knew that this stuff bites you in the ass sooner or later. So I was always waiting for that. I was always sure that there would be a time when that wasn't going to be the case.
Disappointment was waiting around the corner?
Was waiting around the corner. And I mean, I went about trying to pick the next bunch of movies that I got because once that came out, I was getting offers instead of having to audition.
That's
for
one of
things.
the questions too, is that moment of going from auditioning to getting offers.
Yeah.
It's an extraordinary, ridiculous, perfect, weird, wonderful, scary.
Okay, but I'm sure you experienced this.
There's a Few Good Men.
Yes, exactly. And now, okay, does that feel good to you? Or to me, there was a weird sense of dread. I didn't love that feeling because on some level, when you're auditioning, you just have to do what comes, and not having that choice is kind of freeing. It's kind of liberating. It's just you have to do it. This is I need to make a living.
You're raised
Yeah.
by saying yes to everything because you need opportunity.
Yeah.
And it's just an audition, and you can't wait for the next audition.
Exactly. So when I was having to say no
Right.
and pick things,
Right.
and then live with the consequences of having picked the things,
Yeah.
and picked a nice parade of stinkers after that.
It's inevitable.
Well, it's inevitable, absolutely. But now, how did you feel about that? Did you feel liberated by it, or did you?
No, I was a girl who couldn't say no and ended up doing 40 fucking movies in the 90s like an idiot.
Like me too. Well, except mine were in the 80s. So yeah.
Because you're not used to people offering you anything.
Exactly.
So you don't, for me, it wasn't a matter of, you got an agent telling you what you should do next. And for me, it was, you need to shut up. They're asking me if I want to do something. And the answer is yes. You just need to get the best deal. We're doing this just because they said, do you wanna? I mean, that was the thing, and it wasn't it was way too late for me to stop and go, wait a minute, maybe I should be a little more careful.
Perhaps
You want to be careful. You want to be careful fairly early on, but that's just a momentary glitch in the yes momentum, because the train is moving, and also, as you said, disappointment is around the corner. How long is this going to last? Make hay while the sun shines. So when I'm on the phone with the agent's going down the stack of scripts that we have to choose from. It all sounds incredible, but there were conversations of, so what else is there? Well, there's a script called The Usual Suspects. Great, who's directing it? You never heard of him.
Yeah, he's a kid.
He's 25 years old. What else has he done? Nothing. He did this movie, Public Access, that never saw the light of day. Great. What else you got on the pile? No, I want you to read this. Who else is in it? Kevin Spacey. What else is on the pile?
Who's this?
Spacey was a character actor like
He had
I
done
was at
Wise
the time.
Guy. That was like it.
Yeah. He did a co-lead Consenting Adults.
He had one scene in Working Girl.
Yeah.
He was also
Oh, he had one scene in a lot of
Yeah,
movies.
Yeah, Heartburn. He played he was the subway thief.
See no evil, hear no evil.
He'd been around for a long
Yeah.
time, actually, as the one scene guy. So anyways, Gabriel Byrne was the most known name, but only for Miller's Crossing. He had done, I think, Into the West was the only other American film. But he wasn't well known. Miller's Crossing made $11. I love the film, but,
The
so...
problem with Miller's Crossing is it came out the same year as Goodfellas, I believe.
Yeah, 90.
Yeah, that was the problem.
Yeah, that would definitely be a problem. So anyways, it was what else is on the stack,
Yeah.
And he just kept insisting, you have to read this, you have to read this, you have to read this. So sometimes that guidance is extraordinary.
Yeah.
And most of the time you're left to your own, what should I be doing? So my question to you is, how much did you take in of the sort of mind-boggling nature of what should I be doing versus these are my opportunities, this one appears to be the best one, so let's go with that.
I went that way.
Yeah.
Hiding Out came about. Thank you, Sam.
Waiting for this.
Wow, the whole time.
The
He's
whole
just-
time.
He's just been simmering. He's been a simmering pot.
20% of the audience applauded.
I have questions about the beard.
Oh, great.
But I don't want to interrupt your story. I can wait.
The beard he has now,
Yeah.
or the beard he grew for the film?
beard for the movie.
The beard for the movie. Okay, you will have answers
Thank you.
today. By
Oh.
golly. Today, your questions will finally be answered. That came about because the script was fun. It was fun. But they said, we'll let you produce it. And I said, I really want to learn how to produce stuff. But they really deferred a lot to my decision making at that point. I was all of 23, 24 years old, and
Why wouldn't
had
they?
seen several movies, so I know how to make them clearly. And so I was having meetings with Dino De Laurentiis where I'm selling him scenes, Dino De Laurentiis had these absolutely exceptional eyebrows. They were just these huge, crazy things. You
They made
remember them?
Scorsese ask, "What's with that guy's eyebrows?"
Yes, exactly. He was a remarkable little tiny man.
I just remember the head on the other end of the desk.
Yes, because he had a desk that was the size of most people's pool.
And he was 4'8".
And he was 4'8".
Yeah.
And I couldn't believe that I was playing, that I was allowed to be with these people, you know. And so in that respect, it was a great learning experience. But I was making a lot of mistakes because I'm 24 and I don't really know what I'm doing. And, you know, of course, I'm grateful in the end for the stuff I learned during it, but I wish I made a better movie.
Sure.
You know, and now I think we get to Sam's question, what's with the beard?
No, was it real?
The beard was not real. No, it had to be painstakingly laid on with spirit gum, which burns. I don't
You
know
have
if
a
you've
theater
ever...
background. Come on, you know about spirit gum.
I know about spirit gum, but I hate it. Somebody, please, Adhesive Scientists of America, come up with something better than spirit gum. It's a nightmare. It's a horrible
May I speak to
burning-
those scientists for a
Please
moment?
speak to
On
the
your
Adhesive
behalf?
Scientists
On
of
your
America.
behalf?
Thank you.
Specifically the adhesive scientists, so that actors' faces won't be hurt.
Thank you.
That's why you should get bitten.
That's why you should do it, because we don't want to ever experience pain or discomfort.
No.
We're sensitive people. Everybody knows that. Somebody's calling me like crazy now. Oh, my wife is calling me.
Go ahead and
Oh
take
my
it.
gosh.
the spirit
No, I'm
gum
not-
people.
Take it, please.
Hey,
It
stop
wouldn't be
shit
the
talking
first.
us.
Just
We
went
have
to
a company to
voicemail.
run.
It wouldn't be the first,
Sorry.
by the way. We had someone book themselves on a better show during our show
During-
once before. Yeah.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
No, the beard was a total pain in the ass.
So sorry to hear that.
And
And the roller skating?
the roller skating. What about the roller skating?
That was you really roller
That was
skating?
me really roller skating.
That's great.
Fake beard, real roller skating. That's what you get when you hire Jon Cryer.
That's fantastic.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? That was it? The beard?
But the beard was the main question.
It's a good one.
I promised I wouldn't ask about 2.5 Men until we cover the beard controversy.
That's true. You made that promise earlier.
So I assume for all the press you've done on the book, they you know, it was a sort of revelation of. I remember reading an excerpt forever ago. I think March, as early as March, they released an early excerpt, specifically talking about the goings on near the end, as it were, of the Charlie era. So I imagine that's all that they've been focused on, or mostly been focused on.
Yeah, it's been a bit frustrating,
scandalous and controversial. But it was a part of your life, man. It was a part of your life, and you know, one of the things when we went to the upfronts for CBS in New York, I finally said to my 3 co-stars, another one who refers to himself as you did all those years as show killer. This kid Kyle Bornheimer, who's
brilliant. I'm sorry, he's brilliant.
super fantastic.
Yeah.
And hopefully the show will allow him to show people on a more regular basis. But in the car, I finally said to them, "So none of you are going to get sick, right? Because we've got a show to do, and we've just been announcing it at the upfronts, but we still have to remain well until we start shooting again." And I just started becoming very concerned for everyone's health, and it was a joke, but you know, you don't stop and think about the well-being of your co-star until he or she becomes not well, and then it's got to be one of the single most unnerving things. Firstly, because you care about their well-being, and then eventually, whatever the time ratio is, depending on the individual, oh fuck, the whole thing shuts down. So my first question was, in the book that you write, when that moment when Chuck Lorre, the creator, who probably gets a regular missive from the Lord himself saying, "I'd like that title back," comes to you in your trailer and says, "Could you talk to Charlie?" The weight of that question. Really? Everyone else has done?
Failed on this? Yes.
You're now
down
coming
to me.
to the other lead in the show?
Yeah.
Who I'm going to be able to wrangle this bronking buck?
I think he was hoping that the professional rapport that Charlie and I certainly had all
Sure.
those years would mean something to Charlie, because Charlie at that point had always, he'd always talked about how he could party, but he still got the work done, and it was true. It was absolutely true.
On show night, he killed it.
On show night, he by and large killed it. Towards the end of the show, it was becoming very iffy.
Yeah.
It was requiring a lot more work and a lot, he had to be handled a lot more gingerly. But he was still basically getting the job done. But Chuck had his own addiction problems and had gone through them and was in recovery himself. And it was really, it was always much more about, he's going to die if we don't do this. It wasn't about keeping the show on the air. It was that day-to-day fear of, is he going, if he doesn't show up today, is it because he's at home dead? And that was horrifying to all of us. We had all grown very fond of him,
Sure, and also the history
Yeah.
throughout show business and music.
Exactly. Of very talented people.
Being allowed their extremes.
Exactly. And in fact, sometimes the studios would encourage it, in the past.
Well, one
And-
could make the argument that might have been done when he renegotiated the 1.8 per episode.
Well, yes
at the
and no.
height.
Yeah, at the height of the craziness.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough though, because it's like negotiating with North Korea. When you're negotiating with somebody who you're not sure if they're crazy or not, you're going to lose. You're just going to lose, and that's what happened in that case. The studio was negotiating with somebody who they could not guarantee his behavior, and that works. It's worked for North Korea. So,
Are you calling his agent North Korea?
no, it's just a metaphor.
It is an interesting Pandora's box you might have opened there, which is when negotiating with a crazy front,
Yeah.
you've already shown your hand that you're willing to employ them,
Exactly.
which would tell an incredibly smart agent, Jesus. First of all, surprised that the call is coming in. They're still okay with this.
Exactly.
And want to secure more time.
Yeah. And
I should hold them up.
Well, also it was Charlie. By the way, his reps had suggested he agree way before. It was completely Charlie at that point that got that stratospheric number. It was his own "no, we can get more" thing. And at that point, 2.5 Men was at the height of its money-making time. I mean, it had made billions for Warner Brothers, and
How many years in? It was 6
that
at that
was
point?
probably 7.
Right.
No, our 8th year was our last year with Charlie, and so yeah, it was our end of our 7th when he was negotiating for an 8th.
Yeah.
Was when it went absolutely over the moon for him, it's the reason North Korea does it. It's in game theory. There's a real reason why people do that. It's because it works. The more it's leverage. It's real leverage, and it worked for him in that particular case. But I don't begrudge him. The asset that he contributed to was worth an incredible amount of money.
Well, that's the thing about show business. You should charge as much as you can get away with.
Sure.
They're going to keep you down on the farm as long as they can, and if you ever get in a position to give it back, you need to.
Yes, exactly.
So when Chuck comes to the trailer and says, "Can you talk to Charlie?" and you in fact take on that task, how does that go?
Well, at first, I said, "Hey, man, if you have 5 minutes, I'd love to have a talk with you." And he became nervous about it, like a kid whose parents have said, "Hey, we're gonna have a little talk later."
Or God forbid, I remind any of us of being in a relationship when the other half says, "We need to talk."
We need to talk. Exactly. It was one of those. He kept saying, "Hey, is there any way we could just talk now?" And I was like, "No, it has to be a private thing." Say, "Well, no, let's just talk now. I got a few minutes now." And, no, it's it's of some gravity. We need to talk later. And he was very nervous about it. And finally, I got him to come outside with me and have a private moment. And I just said, "Look, you've always had a certain amount of pride of the fact that you still got it done, even though you were partying like crazy the rest of the time. Well, that time is at an end. You're not getting it done, and you need to know that. and he seemed to totally take it in and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. You're right, man. I'll be on it. I will keep that in mind." And but like anybody dealing with addiction, it was bullshit. This is
the first thing they learn to do, apparently.
Exactly. It's a beautiful coping mechanism, and it worked. It worked for me. I thought, wow, I got through to him.
Yeah.
We're
fine, Chuck.
Yeah, we're fine. We're golden. Just
Yeah.
keep
He said-
rolling.
he said.
Speed.
Yeah.
So
How'd it go? Well, he said.
So
He said it'd be fine. I'm sure it will be.
so yeah, and it was a few months later that Chuck came again into my trailer, but this time he was crying, saying, I hear that if things keep going the way that they're going, he's gone, and he asked me to again speak to him, but this time, he went into rehab within a day of it, and then all hell broke loose, of course.
Of course.
Of course, as is what as we all know where this went, how this rodeo ends.
Yeah. And how was the phase of, well, we'll just replace him. The show will keep going.
Well, you make it sound like, well, we'll just replace him. It was not thought of that way.
No, it wasn't.
It was not. No,
It was
and-
the
and in
opposite
fact,
of that.
I have to say, I was stunned when he was fired. I really thought what the likelihood of what would happen would be
The show go on hiatus.
they would fire him. They would let him go. He'd see the error of his ways. He'd go into rehab, and they would start it up again 3 or 4 months later.
Right.
That's what I assumed would happen.
Sure. Anyone would.
So even after the firing, I still had in my mind that I thought, there's some way that this can still come back together. But at the same time, the biggest worry I had at the time was that he'd die. So getting the show back together was actually fairly low on the priority list.
Yeah, of course.
at that
I mean, when
point.
the rest of us are watching him on was it a YouTube feed initially when he was talking?
He had his own
Camera down beneath his desk.
Exactly. He had his
But the
own
rest of us
website for
were
a while.
watching
It was-
that extraordinary freak show.
Yeah.
Like the Elephant Man.
Yeah, it was awful
It
for his
can't-
friends, I
it
have
can't
to say.
be.
Yeah.
It can't be anything but
Yeah. Oh, it's heartbreaking.
like watching a pony die for someone who actually cares about him.
Yes. Yes. Like watching a pony die. Okay.
Can you think of a worse? visual?
No, that's bad. You're right. That's bad.
I mean, you've got children.
Yes, but no, it was awful, and it was awful that people were looking at it as entertainment.
Exactly. Well,
That certain people
who doesn't love a freak show?
Certain people.
I mean, if you have
I
no
don't want to
emotional,
make you uncomfortable.
if you have no
but-
emotional connection,
Yes.
then it's just a.
Then it was entertaining,
It was-
and he's still a very entertaining guy. That's the fascinating thing about him. He still has a very smart understanding of having a narrative out in the world.
Yes.
And he understands how to exploit that, and that's
Yes.
kind of brilliant.
Yes.
So I don't. I begrudge him nothing. I just. I am just worried that his system cannot take what he does to it. That's
Right.
that's my biggest fear.
Right. So when that is going on,
Yeah.
you and yours
Mm-hmm.
are watching that, thinking, other than your concerns for his health and well-being, are you just hoping he survives all of this, or how?
Yeah. Because every day, every day, I thought that's the day. This is the day that it's going to be over.
Right.
And
And then also you and Chuck both, not just Chuck,
Mm-hmm.
you and Chuck both were hung out to dry by the public conversation.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
The fact that he made Chuck the enemy makes sense because it's an authority figure.
An authority figure who was telling him to stop.
For any addict, for any addict,
Yeah.
that would be the enemy in that situation when you backed into a corner
Yeah.
and you finally think you have a voice and something to say, and you think people give a shit about what you had to say,
Yeah.
as opposed to just watching the show.
But to a lot of people, Charlie's a hero. He's a hedonist.
Fuck the man.
Who, yeah. And I was surprised that I became the man.
You weren't backing him up, man.
I
You weren't
wasn't.
taking
Yes,
his
I
side.
was a traitor apparently.
You didn't walk off the show when he was.
Exactly, which is what what a loyal friend would have done.
Yeah.
At that point. So
If
it
you
was,
cared at all.
yes, the world was kind of upside down at that time, and it was truly worldwide.
Yes.
which was also kind of
It was
disturbing.
a global story in 9 seconds.
Exactly, and I thought, wow, the world has other things to think about at
North
this
Korea.
point. North Korea, exactly. There was a tsunami that it killed thousands in Japan,
Yeah.
and I had done a little bit on Conan about, because he had called me a troll.
I saw
so I
that.
did a comedy bit on Conan coming out as a troll. Like, yes,
saw
I'm
that.
a troll, people. Well, the headline on CNN.com is "Tsunami kills thousands in Japan," and right below that is Jon Cryer, "I am a troll." I was like, wow, seriously, that's what the world is concerned about at this moment? But it was for a brief moment. And it
But
seems
when you're
crazy
in
now.
that brief moment,
Yeah.
there's a sense that this isn't going to end.
No.
Because you don't know, you can intellectualize all these news stories last at most
Yeah.
a week in the current form.
Mm-hmm.
They're either going to evolve into a worse story or they're just going to go away.
Yeah.
But when you're in the middle of it,
Ugh. It's awful.
I don't think any of us can even fathom what you were going through. I mean, this is your show as much as it is his, as much as it is Chuck's. This is your fucking family he's now fucking with. This is your life he's now fucking with. And as much as you want the best and well-being for your friend, those things,
Well,
at some point, it's
yeah.
also about, no?
Yeah, I had a certain amount, but only a certain amount. I mean, it had been such an improbable thing to begin with. I'd been on a lot of.
You were the
I'd
show
been in
killer.
A lot of, yes, I was a show killer. I'd been on a lot of shows that were great situations that didn't last.
Right.
You know, and this was a show that was mostly a great situation. I had a great time those first.
You
few
had a
years.
hell of a run. You
Had a
had
great
7
run.
years, 8 years
Exactly.
under
So
you.
I managed to have a fair amount of gratitude about that.
Right.
At the time.
And if it goes away, it goes away.
It goes away. Yeah, exactly. And the whole thing, as I said, it was all through the looking glass at that point. And so, you know, mostly it was just, it was weird to be part of this global ridiculousness that everybody had an opinion about suddenly.
Oh, boy, did they.
You know, and you know, I just like, this is an actor on a sitcom who's clearly got a drug problem, and who might be going through some psychological issues as well, and the world had something to say about it, which was crazy.
Yeah.
And so then I get this text from Chuck saying that the show might not be done. We have an idea. And I thought, okay. But I still at that point thought they're going to find a way to get Charlie back on the show. They're going to, you know, they're going to send him to rehab somewhere that works, you know. But they said, we want you to meet with somebody because we know an actor who will make the show, you know,
So of
really,
course.
really fly. And of course, that actor is Hugh Grant.
Grant.
Who else has that Teflon charm? And I just thought, okay, sure. You think you can get him? And they said he's gonna. You're meeting him tomorrow. And I was like, okay, I guess you could get him. And we met him, and they had a really fun idea for what his character was going to be. It was going to be a guy who was coming to Los Angeles because he was working for the British consulate, and his daughter was at UCLA, and he wanted to be close to his daughter. And he's just incredibly charming. And my brother would have died on the show, and so I needed somebody to pay the mortgage on the house. So I was taking in a renter, so I say, this guy's great. And then I find out he's actually a con man. It's not true. He's just incredibly charming. And it was a really fun idea.
Yeah.
And we had a great meeting with you, and
According to a moment in the book, he was actually doing the show for 2 hours.
Yes, he signed on to do the show. They made the deal. I was privy to all the deal-making phone calls. At one point, they said, we got to work out the billing. And I said, do Laverne and Shirley. And they said, yeah, we'll do Laverne and Shirley. Laverne and Shirley is where they swap names, first names back and
You
forth.
get to be on the left side, but you're going to be lower than the guy
Yes,
on the right.
exactly. They worked it all out, and the contract was done. And then we got word 2 hours later that Hugh backed out at the last minute.
Yeah.
And we all were sort of, you know, looking right and left. And apparently a lawyer friend of Ashton's had suggested the idea to Ashton. And Ashton said, yeah, I'm up for that. And so the lawyer friend talked to Les Moonves, and suddenly we're having a meeting with Ashton Kutcher. And the rest was history.
Yeah. It really was a remarkable transition in terms of maintaining your loyal audience. because they're going through that whole thing as well.
Well, yeah, and the whole situation polarized them as well. So it was very.
They had to have loved him to a point where they didn't want him to be replaced.
No, and understandably, the show worked very well as what it was. You know,
Technically, the audience shouldn't want either one of you to be replaced.
no, exactly.
If it's one of the most successful sitcoms in history,
Yeah,
they should want you both to be
they
there.
should. You'd think.
So with those concerns of they're not going to go for anybody else, we can justify it.
Oh, sure.
But the
yeah.
audience won't show up.
Yes, there was a lot of worry about that.
Yeah.
There was a lot of worry that even though Ashton had his own huge fan base at the time, the worry was, look, you know, the situation polarized people in such a way that we don't know that anybody will come back. Fortunately, the situation made the viewership balloon at first there, which was really kind of fun.
Yeah,
to
how
be a
long
part
does
of.
the Curiosity?
The Curiosity
numbers
the
last?
Curiosity numbers lasted about a season,
Extraordinary.
which was pretty remarkable, and mostly was due to the writers still were really doing a remarkable job
Yeah.
of capitalizing on what had happened on the show, but bringing in this new character, and you know they did amazing stuff.
Yeah.
That was that, and it was fun to watch. It was fun for me to be a part of and see how they did it and learn how they were going to do it and deal with it. You know, I, in the end, obviously, I'm glad everything turned out the way that it did. I miss Charlie. I wish him well. You know, I'm glad he's still alive. I really am, and you know. But I'm proud of what happened. You know, I'm proud of the way the show came through.
I think, is it a first? I mean, I don't know that.
Well, shows have replaced cast members, you know.
But
and
the
I'm
lead of a
sure
show after 7 seasons
Yeah.
is replaced and then continues on
for another
multiple
4 more.
seasons.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have that moment in television history.
Closest probably
Without an actual
Shelley
death.
Long. Yes,
Shelley Long.
Shelley Long.
It lasted-
in Cheers, but she actually wasn't on. She was only on for like the first 5 seasons, something like that. I think
Right.
Kirstie Alley actually went almost longer than she went.
Yeah, the show was on 11 years. so-
Yeah, it was on 11 seasons. So.
Yeah. And yours was more of a 2.5-hander anyway.
Yes.
A 5-hander, if
It
you
was.
will.
But it's been fascinating to have the book allow me to sort of reflect on that. But what was funny was when I wrote the book, it's the way that they've sort of promoted it is as a tell-all, you know. But as you see, it's a book of comedy.
Yeah.
But what was nice was how much of the tell-allness really dovetailed into the comedy because
Right.
it was all so ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, I when they first suggested that I write a book, I was like, well, what am I going to write a book about?
And they said, don't be silly.
Yes, exactly.
Or coy. We know exactly what we want you to write a book about.
Well, because your life is not a narrative. Your life is your life, and things that putting it in the form of a narrative is different. I don't know if you had that issue with yours. You know, did you feel like you were making something into a
You mean
story?
a beginning, middle, and end narrative?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah, I mean, the attempt is to do a version of that, yes.
Yes.
Without the end.
Yes. So leave it up. I'm still alive.
Yeah.
I'm not dead.
Until I get to Norfolk, Nebraska,
Which-
and then technically it's over.
Because you're getting your lifetime
I
achievement
don't think
award,
you can
and you're
accept
done.
one without admitting
Nope.
or agreeing in contract that you're leaving show business.
That you're done.
Yeah.
Pretty much. But you know, when you're forced to put chunks of your life in narrative form, it's an interesting exercise.
I think it's extraordinary, though. You took to it.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
No, I mean, you've written. I mean, there are produced films that you've written, and The Pompadour of Love being one, and then the other one with, I think, 74 words in the title.
Very long title.
Ione
yes.
Sky.
Yes. Went to Coney Island on a mission from God.
Yeah.
Be back by 5.
Be back by 5.
Yes. Yes. But this is, you know, obviously, you know, this prose writing is so much harder, and so different.
But you're still telling a story, and you're
Yes.
writing dialogue,
Yes.
and yeah.
And trying to, what I realized was that there must have been something about show business, something about the chaos of show business that I was attracted to. There must have been some element, and that if you look at my career over the course of it, it was basically a lot of that weirdness building up until the weirdest possible thing, which was working on 2.5 Men for 12 years. That's how I ended up seeing it. But it was interesting because I so didn't see that at the beginning.
Yeah, no, you couldn't possibly. Well, congratulations on the book.
Oh, thank you.
And
Thank
the
you.
process of writing it alone, congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
On top of the New York Times bestsellers and all the other accolades that come with it. And just the satisfaction of knowing, I'm sure, I don't know if you felt similarly when you wrote screenplays. I always do. Just to hold the copy and
Yeah.
There's
a sense of accomplishment.
I wrote this.
Yeah.
And there's a sense of, I'm more than accomplishment, there's a sense of momentary satisfaction in a life spent of trying not to ever be satisfied.
Yeah.
I think that's what ambition ultimately is, or the drive to do better, is to never be satisfied.
To a certain extent,
we're not
yeah.
allowed to stop and smell the roses if we want to stay on the moving train. And
Yeah. And I'm already writing an update.
Oh,
Yeah.
an update.
Well, yeah, because
An addendum?
the book goes to, well, first of all, people come out of the woodwork with stories once your book is out. Everybody.
Oh, yes, they do.
Oh, yes, they do. And so that's kind of fun. But also, we wrote the book before the finale had actually been shot. So I was done. So I felt like, people who did love the show might want to know the machinations of how, what happened for those last few weeks.
Right.
Well,
without giving any of that away, is there a teaser you can give us about?
I didn't. In the book doesn't really talk about the second iteration of 2.5 Men with
Right.
Ashton. And if you recall, we stayed in the headlines for a while because we had yet another meltdown with Angus T. Jones, which was, I have to say, the thing we least expected.
You didn't see that coming?
No, I did not see that coming. No, not at all. I mean, yeah, he'd gone vegan. That was about as strange.
Anytime a child
as
goes
vegan, yeah, that's
you've
when
got
you
to
have
start
to go,
doing
okay.
some tests.
Exactly.
We give our adult friends enough shit about going vegan, let alone a child.
Exactly. So there was that, and the machinations, because for a while there were attempts to reunite the cast for the finale, which in the end sort of came to fruition, but not quite. So I think there's a story there. So that'll be for the paperback.
Do you? I have not read the book yet.
Yet.
Do you?
But
Do you talk about the hot shots?
I do talk about the hot shots.
Okay.
A bit. Yes.
That's right up my alley.
That's. Oh, really?
So
okay.
I don't want to bug you about it now if I can read it in the book.
Then that's yes. Now is not the time.
Now
for us
is
to
not the time
talk
to
about
discuss this sort of
things,
thing.
in front of people. Yes, I talk about hot shots.
Okay, great.
Not to enormous depth, but there's some tidbits that you might enjoy. Woohoo! Okay.
We were just watching that.
It holds up. It absolutely
It holds up beautifully.
boy,
oh my
does it.
gosh. Yes. Well, mostly because Top Gun is still part of people's references.
And
but,
just the 75 jokes per page.
Yes, they're nonstop, but they're so good.
Yeah.
So good. I think in the end, you do 12 years of 2.5 Men, you do Pretty in Pink, but in the end, Hot Shots will outlive us all, and that's as it should be.
You know who's got a small part in that is Heidi Swedberg. How's
yes,
she doing?
the lovely Heidi Swedberg.
How's she doing? Is she in the news recently?
She was in the news recently because Jason Alexander
That's right.
supposedly said very mean things because because he never had. Why am I?
he
by the way,
told- no,
why
I
am
was
I
just-
reporting?
No, you don't have to
He
report
told the whole story on Howard
I was just
Stern.
making a
Yeah.
reference.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
he apparently came quite clean on Howard Stern about the real story.
Yes, that he and,
So dial
and
that
Heidi
up.
didn't have a great.
He couldn't
comedic
figure out a way to do
rapport.
a comedic scene with her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Heidi is wonderful. I'm sorry.
He
She's
said
wonderful.
that.
And he said that.
He
And by
said
the way,
that
he
ad
absolutely
nauseam.
said she's wonderful. But sometimes there are comedic things that just don't. There's
I've got
chemistry
one.
that just doesn't work.
I'll name her.
Okay, go
but
ahead.
only if you have one that you'll name.
Oh gosh.
Oh, I'll name one.
All right, Sammy.
But mine was Sam Levine. No.
I'm gonna swing big.
Okay.
Bette Midler.
Bette Midler.
Couldn't figure out the
Interesting.
chemistry.
No, because if the scene's not entirely about her and her getting the laugh, she doesn't want to be a part of it.
We
So
just
if they
got a
write
call
something
from
funny
Bette
for anyone
Midler.
else. She doesn't care for it.
I'm sorry to hear that. I'm sorry to hear
Sorry
that.
to report it.
No, I don't have one off the top of my head. I'm sure it's happened. I'm sure.
I wrote about
that
mine
has
in my
happened.
book. You read
but I
about
don't remember one off the top of my head.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine
so
was just
we'll
because
keep it a
she was
secret.
so method that in the story, I cheat on. She's my wife in the story.
Mm-hmm.
I cheat on my wife with Naomi Campbell.
Yes.
First on-screen kiss.
Oh,
Naomi
congratulations. How did it look?
It was ridiculous. I licked the makeup off her face.
I see. There you go.
So the actress was so method that when the cast would go out for lunch or dinner, we're all on location in South Beach. So you go out with the cast and have meals. And the class clown is telling jokes at the table and everyone's laughing. And every time everyone laughed, she would go, I got the TSK from her
Huh.
every time. And finally, initially thought, the fuck's her problem? And eventually realized, oh, she's still acting.
Yes.
Stop that.
But that's the thing. Sometimes the comedic chemistry can be altered by very subtle things.
Yeah.
And perceptions between people. Sometimes people perceive that there's a problem, and it doesn't mean that you lack talent.
No.
It's just that it's a very subtle dynamic.
Yeah.
And it's why comedy doesn't always work. It's why
Absolutely. It
there's
is
so
lightning
many,
in a bottle when it works.
Yeah.
So you had hiatuses during the 12-year run of the show. You
Yes.
had time off. You and your family had time off. You were accustomed to this, but there was no dad's not working now for 12 years. And you joked about it prior in some of the interviews, prior to the finale, saying, "My wife has not been with me since I was unemployed prior to
Yeah, she's never
2.5
met me
Men."
unemployed.
So she may not know what it's like to be around me when I'm walking around the house in a bathrobe.
Yes. Which I actually haven't done since the show. I have been busier than ever.
Yeah.
A friend of mine produced a show that flew me to Moscow to learn how to be a cop. Thank you. She's scoffing. No, no, she's sneezing or blowing her nose. I'm sorry. Yeah, no, you got to do it. You got to do it. I thought it was a comment. I apologize.
Flew you to Moscow.
Flew me to Moscow because I'd always been very curious about the space race of the 60s, and so I wanted to sort of investigate it. So they flew me to Moscow to do some cosmonaut training. It was very exciting. To rode the centrifuge and all that stuff. I've done that. The book came out, so I have done a lot of promotion for that. I'm going to be producing shows for Warner Brothers. So it's actually been very, very busy since then. So I've not been traipsing around the house with my bathrobe. But I still might, the anxiety that comes to actors when you're not actually acting will rear its head.
Sure.
It will come soon. I
there
just don't
also
know
a-
when exactly.
But there must be a sense after being a show killer for so many years.
For so long. Well, I was being called a show killer. You actually saying after being a show killer, which thank you, makes me feel better. But
then to get a 12-year run, which is historical, and historical in every possible way, one of which is good fortune. And the rest of us would like to think that the pressure of having to do that again is reduced.
Oh yes. I don't feel the same way that I used to. I don't. I still want to get better as a comedian. I still want to do that well, and I'm still learning all the time. So.
And the rest of us want that for you.
Thank you, thank you. But I don't. It was a bit of an albatross that every show that I did just got on the air but tanked. That actually really did make things difficult for me for a while. And now having that albatross gone is great. is just one less thing to worry about. But like I said, but it's interesting that comedy changes. It does. The perception of it, how it's performed.
Was this the first pilot season? I'm just now thinking.
This was, interesting. This pilot season was very quiet for Jon Cryer. I did not get. I thought that a lot of time when shows get on, the network wants to fire somebody, and then they, in a panic, come to you and say, "Yeah, we just lost John Stamos. We need Jon Cryer."
Yeah.
And that did not occur. So I thought, interesting. But I'm not. But I don't want to force anything anyway. I don't. I'm just waiting for good stuff to come along, and if it comes
Or
my
not
way,
waiting.
I'm sorry.
Or just not waiting.
Yeah. And trying.
I had
to
the same
make good
problem,
stuff.
bro. It's no big deal.
Yeah, exactly. Just
Going
wait.
around.
Just
going
kick
around.
back,
Yeah.
back. Wait for the
Chill.
good stuff to flow your way.
Interesting you mentioned John Stamos.
Interesting that I did that.
Might have been in the news over the weekend.
Yeah.
Hey,
yeah.
that's a medical condition.
Exactly.
He was rushed to the medical hospital,
He was.
the place where they do medical procedures.
Yeah.
While
medical
being
reasons.
Pulled over for a DUI.
Yes.
It just means
know-
driving under the
Took him to
influence.
the hospital.
Doesn't mean alcohol.
Exactly.
Why to the
Exactly.
hospital, Sammy?
Here's my guess.
Uh-huh.
I know nothing. I know unless they printed new information that I don't know. Here's my guess. His attorney had probably told him ahead of time, listen, man, if you ever get pulled over and you're out of it, just say it's a medical condition and that you need to be at a hospital right away.
Aha.
That's got to be what it is.
That'll book you a little time. That'll buy you a little time before you get booked.
Yeah, it'll buy you time because maybe you say, I don't want to do the breathalyzer. Let's just take me to the hospital, draw my blood there. Maybe it buys you an extra half hour, an extra 45 minutes.
Yeah.
But they still
Here's-
find it in the blood.
Well, it depends how drunk you are.
Okay, got it.
guess.
So he's got to in the flow of the moment. He's got to figure out exactly how drunk am I.
Right.
Okay.
Like,
what I'll go with is
would I
don't feel well.
Right, would I blow a .08 right now, or in
Uh-huh.
40 minutes could I blow a .06? It's the difference between, hey, don't drive like that, asshole, and handcuffs.
Got it. I have no comment on this because I have no idea what occurred.
Yeah.
No, none of us do.
Yes.
I can't thank you enough. I'm unbelievably excited for the book, especially now that it's been optioned to become a film.
Yes. Who's going to play me? I don't know.
Let's make the short list.
Let's
Matthew
make-
Broderick.
Yes. Or Sean Hayes. Or let's see, Paul Rudd. I want Paul Rudd. I love Paul Rudd.
Yeah. Who doesn't love the Ant-Man? What was that display we saw in the foyer of the movie theater when we went to see the Jurassic World? There was a little Ant-Man display.
Like a little tiny Ant-Man billboard with like a little, I don't know.
Oh,
But it was
That's
under
huge.
plexiglass, a box, as if
Yeah, I think, was it maybe like...
there might have been an Ant-Man in there.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I wasn't paying attention. I was too busy telling about the dream I had the night
Yes.
before.
You did have a great dream
Yes.
the night before, involving someone sneaking in an entire sausage pizza
Yes,
into the movie theater. Do you go with the contraband? Do you bring contraband into the theater, as we like to call it?
Only on special occasions, sure. Alcohol, if I can.
Not what I was talking about, but
Oh,
thank you.
Okay.
If there's a candy dish at home, why
Oh.
am I buying the $14 candy?
That's a good point.
I'll put a little plastic bag in it and put it in a sweater that I'll never wear.
Like a couple-
and carry it right in.
crunches,
Yeah, there might have been.
A couple of crunches.
So the dream was
Yeah.
that a friend of ours got in an entire sausage pizza.
Sausage pizza.
My question, of course, he must have folded it.
Yes.
You can't walk
He's
into
offering
it.
it to others. That's the best part. Is like,
Uh-huh.
nice.
Oh, see.
And you had him individually wrapping them in foil and putting them into a shoebox.
That was his solution. That was his real, like, I told him I had this dream, and then you asked, like, how would you even get this in? So then this is him in real life, like, creating a solution.
Which it's even more impressive.
Okay, got it. So that's an actual practical
Yeah,
solution.
you just have to
You
figure out how to get a
a-
shoebox into a movie theater.
Exactly.
I'm not comfortable in these shoes. I just bought them. I brought a backup pair. I may have to change into them during the film.
During the film.
I believe you saw how somebody won a T-shirt early on by doing the
did.
Larry King game. I'm going to explain to you the rules because all guests must end the show by
Aha.
playing the Larry King game. It's
Okay.
nothing but fun.
I'm sure. I'm sure.
So it's a bad Larry King impression. I wasn't just doing a bad Larry King impression accidentally or involuntarily. It is the rule.
That
I don't want a
must
good
be.
one. I don't want a good one.
Yeah.
But it also relieves the pressure of having to do a good one.
Uh-huh.
So last week, I believe the guest did it in a Southern accent. There's no way to fuck
There's
this up.
no, exactly.
There's no such thing as a bad Larry King impression beyond what I want. Then, as Larry, before you go to the phones, you'd stare down the barrel and share something about Larry, as Larry.
As Larry.
that nobody needs to know.
No.
He would share these little tidbits about himself. I love Oreo cookies. Nobody cares.
Nobody
Right.
cares.
So give me a little bit of Larry sharing something about himself, and then go to the phones. And when you go to the phones, if the name of the city is funny sounding,
Uh-huh.
that's not bad. That's not a bad thing. Bad Larry King impression, share something about Larry as Larry, go to the phones. Those are the only things you must accomplish. There's your camera. When you're ready.
Okay. So it starts with a factoid of some...
you jump right into the bad impression. You share something about yourself as Larry.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be a Jon Cryer fact. We want a Larry King fact.
Okay.
And then you go to the phones. That's it.
Okay. So wait, go through it again
Sure.
for me. ahead.
As Larry.
As Larry, got it.
Share something,
Got it.
and then go to the phone.
And then go to the phones. Larry King here. No, that's terrible.
Well, it can't technically be you. You're going to have to alter your voice
I'm gonna have to
somehow.
But see, you said there's
But
no
not
way
as
to do
Larry.
this wrong.
You know what? I stand by that. You can do it in your own voice.
I've achieved it.
That's on you.
Larry King here.
There you go.
I enjoy having my nipples massaged, and I'm going to go to the phones. This is the worst one ever. Here we are, Norfolk, Idaho. Is it Idaho? No, it's
Nebraska.
Nebraska. Norfolk, Nebraska.
Yeah.
You're on the air.
Thank you very much
You're very welcome.
for phoning
Kevin
that
Pollak.
in. That was
Yes,
really,
that was the most perfunctory.
after a
that was-
2-hour interview, you would
You
think.
tired me out.
Yeah. Thank you, honestly and truly.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
For also to your family for allowing you out of the house on a Sunday.
They were calling. Apparently,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm due back.
Yeah. And congratulations on the book
Thank you.
and everything you continue to do. Big fans.
That's very kind of you to say.
Was there a question that I didn't allow somebody to get to? Good.
Somebody tweeted me a question.
Please.
They said, "Do you and Andrew McCarthy keep in touch?"
And the answer, of course,
The
is
answer, of course, is no. We do not. We barely kept in touch while we were shooting.
also in the book.
Also in the book. But God bless him. I wish him well.
Yeah, that is perfect. All right, sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up for
Great.
the folks at home there. Thanks, everybody. Taking next week off, coming right back on the 28th with a live show. Sunday, Sam Levine, the great Sam Levine, will be hosting for me.
Woo!
Oh, thank you.
I'll be participating in a redonkulous $1 million one-winner poker tournament. 5 celebrities play until one remains. 5 of the best pros in the world, most famous pros, play until one remains, and then those 2 go heads up. The winner of which gets $1 million.
Damn.
Everyone else gets a set of steak knives.
A little Glengarry.
So
Glen
I have
Ross
1 in 10 chances of winning. Wow. Technically,
Really, you have a 1 in 6 chance of winning.
you give me 1 in 6.
Yeah.
I love that. I made the cut. All right, and so we'll thank the Natalie Rosen. After 1 week of being an executive assistant, I'm just going to say I should have been paying her all along. Thanks to Evil Dr. Chen, Sammy and Jamie, the Dooman and the J-Mac, getting everything done. Samantha Ward. I said Dooman.
I'm just laughing at the Dooman.
Yeah, the Dooman.
I'll take it.
And the Glooman. The Dooman and the Glooman. Samantha Ward, who left already, and I think that's everybody. All right, until next time, and as always, get out of my face.